others. So I just share a little bit from my background. I'm a naturopath for my profession, but also a peace builder. So I would say healing the cultural wounds and the divide led Brian and me as a couple to continue our work as peace builders. So our approach is really, and our action, teaching the method of compassionate listening, establishing practice groups and listening circles, and we have speaking engagements in Germany and the US. So you hear from my accent, I'm not Native American, I'm from Germany. And the time we are in right now, I feel it brings up really a little bit my background. You know, we have a lot of polarity, separation, isolation, confrontation, objectifying the other. So the pandemic is really challenging people in many ways. So clearly, Brian and I, we embrace diversity. And what I hear, I love Rotary is around the world and embracing that. It's so beautiful. So my background growing up in post-war Germany, a collective traumatized society, brought me in early childhood to the awareness that there is so much heaviness and pain and a lot of hidden silence. People didn't speak about it. They were just happy that they survived and life was going on. So it was really, as a little kid, I had nightmares about wars and soldiers, all this heaviness. I couldn't name it at that time for sure, but as I did grow up, and when I moved to West Berlin in my early 20s, it even was more in my face, like we were divided in East and West and in the grips of Cold War. I experienced the other, the we and the other. You know, there was this daily life in West Berlin with a wall of concrete and steel, and there was the wall that divided families and friends, and people who wanted to overcome it for freedom from the East, they were arrested or shot dead. And some, like me, I lived in freedom, other behind the wall, and it was so hard to just encompass that all. So in that way, even when I studied naturopathic medicine, I became already interested in peace sciences. So I studied peace sciences, got trained in mediation, and met amazing peace builders like Marshall Rosenberg, the founder of Nonviolent Communication, you might know, or Johann Galtung. He was the father, or is the father of peace sciences. So they were so truly inspirational to me as they spent their lives in conflict zones, but were full of hope and optimism. In that way, I felt always they contribute in their way to a better, peaceful world. And what I probably learned the most, the main tool I got was the gift of deep listening. So this came actually to a test. In 2002, I was asked to be part of a Jewish-German reconciliation project. That's where I met also Brian. He was the co-facilitator of a Jewish-American delegation who met the same amount of Germans to heal or be around the wounds of the Holocaust with all the atrocities that my people caused. So there was first, second, third generation meeting. And this program was based on compassionate listening and nonviolence communication. And it became, I think, for everyone, a life-changing experience that goes on up to now. So Brian and I, we both are certified compassionate listening facilitators, and you might just ask yourself how wonderful it feels when you feel really heard. When you feel that the person you are spilling your heart out to is really listening, without interruption, without giving you any tips, without wanting to fix you, and you feel there is a non-judgmental, open heart, and somebody tries even to understand you from your perspective. It's not about right and wrong. So compassionate listening is listening from the heart, and that is the learning. Most people listen just on a momental level, on the fact levels. But when you listen from your heart, you actually reduce the suffering of the other person. There is this deep listening from heart to heart that builds the bridge, and we meet as humans. Like what Brian and I experienced, at one point it was not anymore important, the stereotype, a typical German, like how I was grown up with a lot of guilt and shame. When I traveled as a young person, people would sometimes spit in front of me when they identified I'm German, or, it's Jewish story, all the pain that had happened. So you meet just on this heart-to-heart level, and it was just so, it's not the goal to reconcile, but at one point it happens naturally. There's not the agenda, we have to forgive each other. But there is something happen that's freeing and builds the bridge, and we meet from heart to heart. And needs, we all have similar needs. So in this way, even as a naturopath, I would say peace is our natural state. It's our core of who we are. We forget that sometimes. It's the same with health. Health is our natural state. When we have some disease, it's an imbalance that shows up and invites us to come back to balance. Yeah, it's not that for me as a naturopath to get rid of symptoms, more exploring what is the block in the body that blocks the own healing forces. So the same is with peace. You might now say, I know you do so much service work in Rotary, and you might now feel, I have to do something. Yes, absolute. Wherever you feel there is your outlet, you do something. But what Brian and I experience, when you come from a place of inner peace, that needs to be trained like you do, like your muscle training. It needs to be engaged, that you come from a peaceful place, even in challenging moments when you meet the other, the so-called other. So, and this is what we do in our trainings. We help people really to practice more and more staying in their heart, how to listen from the heart, how to speak from the heart, so that wherever your action is, your activity comes from that place. And you will be surprised, it will be probably much more successful. So in a way, we feel inner peace is the foundation of world peace. So I complete with Helen Keller's quote I always like. She says, alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. So thank you for listening, and I go to Brian to share more about International Cities of Peace.